Make large crypto trades with Kraken OTC, execute orders of more than 100,000 off the open exchange through our premium OTC trading service. Get 24/7 access to deep liquidity, minimal slippage, and competitive execution and settlement services. Private and secure trading options include chatting securely with our trade desk for a personalized high-touch service, or use our self-service RFQ for super fast, automated OTC trading. Non-investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss and is offered to U.S. customers through Payward Interactive Inc. For more information, go to realvision.com/Kraken OTC.
Hey everyone, look, sorry, this is the cheesy interruption that you get on YouTube channels, but they're really important. I'd really appreciate it if you just hit the subscribe button. You see, it makes a difference to know how I'm doing, seeing the growth in subscribers, if we're getting the right content. Obviously, comments help as well. But hitting the subscribe button allows me also to book the best guests. It really does make a difference. So if you do enjoy this content, and I know you do because you keep coming back to watch it, just please hit the subscribe button. Sorry again for the cheese, but it is important. I appreciate it so much. Take care.
Hi, I'm Raoul, and welcome to my show, The Journeyman. Now, The Journeyman, as I always explain to you, is that nexus to the journey to the nexus of crypto, macro, and the exponential age in technology. You see, the exponential age is incredibly important a concept for you all to understand because it's going to change every single part of your lives. Whether you're a pro-technology person or not, it matters not because it is coming. Every day is more digital than the last. And this exponential age is the nexus of so many great technologies coming together as well, creating network effects on network effects, like AI, robotics, renewable energies, computational power, distributed compute, biogenetics, space, longevity. There's so many things that are all hitting an exponential curve at the same time. Even if you look at the cost of renewable energy, it's an exponential collapse of cost. Computing power, exponential collapse in cost, exponential increase, the exponential increase in the power of AI, the exponential rise of robots at places like Amazon, where they now exceed the number of humans. These things are going to change everything about our society, everything that we understand, even maybe to our system of money itself. Obviously, crypto is part of the exponential age, but it's even more profound than that. As we start heading into something I call the economic singularity, that's the point, maybe some point after 2030, where we just don't understand even the study of economics. If you remember, GDP growth is driven by population growth, productivity growth, and debt growth. Debt growth broke in 2008, and all debt growth is now is servicing of old debts, and it keeps going because you have to keep paying the interest on the interest on the interest. But if you think of population growth, in the Western world has been shrinking. That's why GDP has been falling and inflation has been falling over time. And productivity, because of an aging workforce, is falling as well. But somewhere the solution to this massive debt burden, the utter fuckedness of the world, actually comes from technology. You see, AI and robots create infinite humans. Infinite humans create, bizarrely, infinite GDP growth. Productivity is essentially the output per unit of energy. Now, the energy cost that we mainly use is electricity. So as we force down the cost of electricity, the productivity that comes from AI and robots against that means you get a multiplier. So beyond 2030, it starts to become difficult how to think of the world. How to think of a world that's full of abundance and not scarcity. You see, we understand scarcity of knowledge to be one of the most powerful things, whether it's Wall Street, whether it's lawyers, whether it's accountants, whether it's marketing people, whether it's copywriters, authors, artists, anybody. It's the knowledge that they have that they can charge for, and the experience as well. But that all goes out the window with AI because we've got something that's far more powerful than humans. Now, you hear stupid shit bandied around like, well, AI's got an IQ of 100. It's got an IQ of 100 on any single or every single topic on Earth. So it's a polymath too. It's an extraordinarily powerful technology, and this is the worst it's ever going to be. by many people's yardstick, this is going to multiply 1,000 or 1,000,000-fold over the next decade. I don't think people can get their heads around what this means. Now, I'm a passionate believer. I coined the phrase the exponential age. I'm a passionate believer in it. I think for all of us, we need to get involved in it. We need to understand it and not fear it. Because you know what? You can be superhuman with AI too. So if you are a Real Vision member, I really urge you to check out The Exponentialist. You can take a free trial. It's a $1 trial. You can go into the marketplace. For those of you watching elsewhere, just go to realvision.com/future. And that's a service myself, David Matten, Julian Bittel, and Imran Wright, where not only do we in-depth analyze what is going on, what it means at societal level, what it means for you and your children, what it means for our businesses, but we also have a portfolio how to follow along and how to make money out of this. You see, I think we've really got 6 years to make as much money as possible before the economic machine breaks. And I'm not sure what money even is at that point. I don't even know how to run a business in a world where AI is better at everything than any of us. I don't even know how most of the economic infrastructure works. So I think we've got 6 years to make as much money as possible. And the Exponentialist is that journey, that 6-year journey to help us capture this, understand it, lean into it, become superhumans or super businesses, but also to make money from this revolution. Anyway, talking of a revolution, talking of abundance, my next guest is the king of this, my good friend, Peter Diamandis. We're going to talk about all of this. His focus is really on AI and longevity, two things that matter to everybody. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Join me, Raoul, as I go on a journey of discovery through the macro, crypto, and exponential age landscapes. In The Journeyman, I talk to the smartest people in the world so we can all become smarter together. Peter Diamandis, welcome back, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's been way too long.
I know it has, and there's a lot to catch up on because, we both share this thesis of this kind of, I call it the exponential age, and you're somewhat similar in how you describe it. And, we're at the fastest pace of change in technology of all human history.
By orders of magnitude and accelerating, right? Our foot is on the universal accelerator. It's not slowing down.
And, my view is, and I think yours is the same, is, look, people need to understand what's going on because some people fear it, other people embrace it, but it's going to happen regardless.
There's no stop. There's no on-off button. There's no velocity knob. It's the best you can do is anticipate and steer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's happening on so many fronts. I want to cover some of those fronts, just get your thoughts, because you're really at the front line of this. You invest in it. You talk to a lot of people in it. And so for me to be able to pick your brains is a wonderful privilege for me. So what is first on your mind where you're going, okay, this is getting really, really interesting to me, whether it's moving, because exponentials for humans are difficult to understand. Even if you expect them, they still come. Let's start with whatever you think is the most incredible things you're seeing.
So I've split my life, my focus, my investments, my companies into two parts. Half is longevity and half is AI. And they're the two $2 trillion market opportunities, and they're the most impactful on human society. So dealer's choice, where do you want to go first?
Let's start with AI and then we'll go to longevity because they're both topics dear to my heart.
So, hopefully no one listening is under a rock and they're having these conversations around their dinner table as well as their boardroom, right? AI is going to reinvent every aspect of our lives.
So I'm just going to, interrupt you very quickly, is I don't think they understand it still.
Yeah. Let's begin. The concept of AI was first discussed at Dartmouth University in the mid-1950s. And the idea is, can you create machinery that replicates how the brain works? The brain is 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion synaptic connections. We understand the structure of the brain, even on a molecular basis, what's going on inside the neurons. And it is a very complicated set of algorithms and activities. Now, the question aspect then is, could you actually model this in silico computationally? And the belief was yes. And they actually got together at a Dartmouth summer to try and figure this out. And of course, they didn't get very far. But a lot of the ideas that have been developed in the decades followed, again, very little progress. It's only now, in really the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, and I would argue the last 2 years, where the amount of computational power, really the raw computational power to run through these algorithms faster and faster and faster, like your brain does, has enabled us to get what we consider artificial intelligence. In other words, where a processing set of algorithms with access to a vast set of knowledge is able to contextualize what you're saying to it. It understands what it's seeing. And this is a multimodal world. I can hear and see and understand, contextualize what that means, and then give you an answer of what you're asking for. So this is AI. AI in its success is able to model human interactions. In other words, but vastly faster, vastly more capable in a multitude of different ways. The two major things that have made AI possible is growth in exponential speed, computations per second, right? We've gone to like, 10 to the 15th, 10 to the 18th computations per second. We've used these graphical processor units, clusters, these GPU clusters NVIDIA makes. And the second thing, besides the massive compute, is in fact data. It's just been super convenient that we humans have digitized everything. We've been, rather than writing in handwritten language and just speaking, all of this stuff has become digitized so that computers can pass it back and forth. These podcast conversations you and I are having, people's, Facebook posts, their tweets, all of this data has been a mechanism by which we've written down how we think. We are actually putting into a logical process what we think, how we string words together, and computers are now able to model that, are able to look at all of this data and say, oh, this word typically comes after this word, or this thought comes after this thought, or this word, in the parlance of AI, this token, can mean 3 different things depending on the words it's surrounded by. Long story short, these AIs can now model how we speak, what we see, interpolate and extrapolate, but at vastly faster speeds.
When you think about it, I feel like this is a tool to tap into the universal consciousness, because it's all of humanity's conversations, observations, everything that humanity's done that has been digitized is now assimilated and searchable and understandable by these new algorithms. So it feels like it's one way of kind of combining humanity's entire knowledge, feelings, everything.
And leveling the playing field and making it accessible to anyone and everyone. I'll tell you, the one thing I have to say, which is just continues to shock me, isn't it wild that the world's most powerful technology today, I would argue generative AI, is available for free to anyone with a smartphone? Holy shit. I would have never, if you went back 10 years and say, we're going to have this kind of AI that's able to do all these things, answer questions, understand what it's seeing, enable all these things, how much do you think it would be available per person? If I'd have to subscribe for like $1 million, or a company, it's free and it's getting better every day. The only challenge is a lot of these AI models are based upon Western culture and Western knowledge base. Even though we're scraping the world, the training sets, right? I just got back from a week in India. I was in Bangalore, Delhi, and Mumbai. Amazing, brilliant individuals. Your heritage there, amazing place, right? 1.4 billion, very literate, very young, very hungry, cognitive hungry, I should say. But it doesn't have the compute, and it hasn't built the large language models. And so the question is, for example, will India be basing its future AI systems on what comes from Meta or XAI or your Google? What's the other one? Oh yeah, OpenAI. Or will it build its own? Will we create large language models resident in each country that able to digitize the knowledge of that country and build a representation of the culture of that, and then merge those all together to create a universal knowledge base and consciousness? I mean, it's an amazing time to be alive. I keep on coming back. It's like, wow.
I'm the same. And I honestly think every time I talk to people, I was out for dinner last night here in the Cayman Islands with friends who are very smart. And I was talking about AI, and even though they use, ChatGPT, they're still not understanding the power of where it is today. Because people are almost afraid to ask it questions. It's like, partly it's like you kind of need to know how to do it a little bit. And even if you talk to it, I speak to it on my phone and it works really well. But for me, it's like Confucius has come down from the mountain and he speaks Mandarin and you speak English. You don't really know how to interact properly, and you do it superficially.
I have a community that about, my Abundance 360 community. It's a group of 500 CEOs that I mentor, right? And I committed to mentoring them for 25 years, which is an interesting journey. We're in year 13 on that journey. And every year, my job for the Abundance community is contextualize what just happened in the year before and where are things going in the next 2 to 3 years, right? To anticipate where things are going. And so we spend a lot of time talking about AI and how do I learn this? And I'll repeat it here. When I'm mentoring these CEOs and talking about this, just get on Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude 3.5 and have a conversation and just ask it, teach me about AI. And then it will say something and you'll say, what is that? What does a token mean? What does context mean? What does this mean? And then you can say, listen, I'm just at the beginning of my education. There's a, teach it to me like I'm 5 type of, nomenclature. And it's infinitely patient and it will be your best tutor. And if you're using, GPT 4.0, you can do this conversationally and just spend an hour and just say, repeat that again, please. Explain it differently. I'm in this business. Give me some examples that are relevant to me. It's amazing.
But also people still tend to think of it as some sort of search of this database of knowledge. What I find really interesting is, like, let's say you've got a personal problem at work. You've got a complicated situation with a complicated person. You want to know how to approach it. Honestly, just go and ask ChatGPT or Claude and say, listen, here's my set of problems here. I want to get this kind of outcome. How do I approach it? Its ability to think things through is extraordinary.
Really important point. You, me, anyone listening, we only know how to think the way we know how to think, right? It's obvious, but, and so you can have it be an interpreter for you. So for example, if you are for one position politically and you're speaking to someone on the opposite side, you can say, listen, this is my position. I'm about to speak to somebody who this is their views. Can you help me explain my position in a way they might understand it better? Boom. Amazing. Right? I'm about to speak to my 13-year-old son about something I found. help me understand what's a good way to approach this. I'm blown away, right? Or I'm about to go speak to my wife about an issue. Like, could you give me some advice on how I could broach the subject in a way that's going to be compassionate and understanding?
I mean, I use it for these things a lot because, yes, the search element is great, but really it's this kind of advice of anything, whether it's even medical advice, psychological advice, sociological advice, cultural advice, anything, and it will help you think it through. And, I even give it emails to say, listen, I'm angry, so I'm writing an incendiary email, and I wanted to tone it down because I want it to land right, and it will rewrite the email for me and say, okay, this will probably work better. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. I've gotten those emails from you. No, just kidding. Agreed. And so I think, I teach about mindsets that I think an entrepreneur or leader's mindset is the most important asset they have. And in this sense, a curiosity mindset is your greatest gift in thinking about AI. So really just be curious and be open to it. And just, when I'm in a board meeting or in an executive meeting with one of my companies, I've got it open on my laptop and I will ask it the same questions I might be asking my team. Another fun thing to do is to say something like, this is my company, this is the issue we're facing. How would Steve Jobs answer it? Or how would Elon Musk do it? I mean, honestly, you can guess, but it actually provides a damn good, Elon's approach would take a first principles thinking, which in this case would be this. It's like, holy shit, that's amazing.
It's incredible. The other thing that I've been following before we start going through the economic benefits and stuff, but the other thing that I've been following is several people's journey into AI consciousness. And so I started that thinking, well, this is ridiculous. But then you start going down what is consciousness and kind of it's an undefinable thing. And, if you're saying, well, it's parroting humans, well, that's all humans learn from is parroting each other. And, psychology would say that we are based on the sum of our experiences.
I mean, honestly, when people get pissed off about an AI modeling their artwork or their music, I'm like, listen, we call it influence in the human world, right? When you go to the museum and you're studying Da Vinci or somebody, and then you're and that influences you. Okay. I mean, I don't get the difference. I really don't. I mean, copying, I got it. It's called plagiarism, but, modeling is called influencing, and I'll probably piss someone off, but I just think, anyway, different story.
I'm starting to think through another lens from which I look at this is I look at it through an economic lens, which is economic growth, trend rate of growth is driven by three factors really, which is population growth, productivity growth, and debt growth. And we've got shrinking populations in most of the developed world now.
People need to understand that, right? We are very quickly throughout most of Asia, United States, most of Europe, other than Africa and a few other countries, we're heading towards a massive population decline.
What we're creating here is our whole economy was built on scarcity of manpower, physical power, i.e. the ability to do things, and the ability for knowledge. So doctors and lawyers, there's less of them, there's large demand, the cost of them is high. Now, what we're about to do is unleash essentially unlimited knowledge for almost zero cost. And with the robots, you get unlimited manpower. So you've basically creating unlimited humans.
So if you ask me, okay, beyond AI, what's next in its impact on humanity? It is the coming humanoid robots, right? There are 30 companies that are well-funded that I'm tracking. You know them as Tesla with their Optimus robot, Figure AI with their Figure robot. Full disclosure, I own Tesla stock. I'm an investor in Figure. There are a number of companies coming out of China, And these are robots. Elon's prediction on price is he's going to sell them for $10,000. Okay, even if they're $50,000, right? This is something that works 24/7, no drug testing, no fights with their boyfriends or girlfriends, operates 24/7 through the week, and you could lease that for $200-$300 a day, and it does anything and everything you want. These robots are operating on a multimodal AI. They can see and understand what they're seeing. You can communicate and say, please clean up the room. The first time you get the robot, you show it the room and say, look around. This is what I consider the room looks like when it's clean. And then next time, come in, can you please set it back to its original state of clean? But these robots will go far beyond. They'll become our future surgeons, right? There's no question in my mind that maybe it's not 10 years, maybe it's 12, 15 years. Within 15 years, the best surgeons in the world will be these humanoid robots, can see in infrared, ultraviolet, no jitter, not too much coffee, didn't get too little sleep. And if you're interviewing a surgeon for a particular surgery you need to do, there's one question you ask, which is, how many times have you done this surgery like today, this morning, right? Because the surgeon who's done the most surgeries has seen the most variations and has the most experience. These surgical robots will share their knowledge. And so 1 million of them will have seen every variation. And just like a Tesla car shares its experience with its primary mission control, the same thing here. And it'll be the cost of the CapEx and the cost of electricity. So you'll have these surgical robots available in small villages, right? All of this is about creating a democratization and demonetization and an uplifting of humanity. And so AIs will be your diagnostician. These robots will become your surgeon. And these are just small examples of what's coming.
And if you are able to increase human knowledge, true experts at an infinite scale, essentially, we'll come on to electricity later, but let's assume you can do that. That kind of changes what economics is or what the wealth of nations is. Because in a world of total abundance, money has limited value.
Yeah, we go to a post-scarcity, post-capitalist society.
And what does that look like to you?
I spent my community is called Abundance 360 based on my first book, Abundance. My next book I'm writing right now is called Age of Abundance, which will be late next year. Elon's agreed to write the foreword for it. And it's hard, right? So I want you to imagine that AI is able to, is the world's best educator, right? So every child has not good education, has the best education personalized for that child. AI is your physician. It is not good medical care. It is the best possible medical care for you, right? We have, the question becomes, what do we spend our money on if education and health is free? Entertainment becomes hyper-personalized and effectively free, right? Where I can spin up a movie starring me and, Marilyn Monroe and there it is. So it becomes a very interesting world. If you go the next step and you talk about, listen, this usually takes a glass of scotch and a late night conversation, but if you bring in nanotechnology, right? And nanotechnology is the ability for these 10 to the 9 devices that can manipulate atoms that can, first of all, keep you in perfect health, potentially forever. But I can take a nanobot. There was an amazing book written in 1986 by Eric Drexler, who's a friend, called Engines of Creation, in which he talks about these nanomachines. And if I have a nanobot and in my hand and I say, duplicate yourself, and it grabs some atoms from my skin cells and it duplicates itself, I give one to you, now you have one. I can say, I drop it in the ground and I say, build me an electric Ferrari. Now, it has to have the energy for building this thing. It needs to have the atoms. Well, there's lots of raw material. It might say, listen, I need a kilogram of lithium or of titanium, and you have to go out and get these raw materials. Fine, but they're nanobots mining those raw materials someplace else. And, there's lots of open source information. So the information might be free. It comes down to energy, information, and materials. And so this is a post-scarcity world where whatever I want can be created. And you might say, oh, that's insane. But if you think about, if you take a seed for an oak tree and you drop it in the ground, effectively what it's doing is it's gathering resources from the ground, energy from the sun, and it's slowly creating this mighty oak, right? That's nanotechnology in slow motion. Can we do it faster? Eric and many others have done the equations to say, yes, we can do it faster, more efficiently. Again, is that 20 years out, 30 years out? Probably in that time frame. And AI is the set of intelligence amplifiers that enable us to create those new sets of technologies. And so the world's going to get very interesting very fast.
And also, in that world of abundance, I'm not sure how corporations exist anymore once we get agentic AI.
Yeah.
Because the agents themselves can run businesses. Right now you can think of agents, when people say, oh, I don't really understand, it's sort of like it's Fiverr. You can go on, you can get a specific skill set done. And my guess is they'll pay each other with cryptocurrencies because they can't get utility bills to open a bank account. So they need to pay each other for the electricity and compute. But it makes me wonder, what is a corporation in that world as well?
Yeah. So you're right. And a decade ago when I wrote my second book, Bold, I talked about the, Fiverr and the crowdsourcing world as a interim step until we have full AI. Right now, if you need something, you can ask the crowd to do it and let them compete. The best one step forward. Ultimately, it will be AI. You say, listen, I need a new website. I need this. I need whatever your desire is. It's going from desire to materialization. And of course, the theory of the corporation was always, we're going to build an entity and we're going to put people on the inside. And the cost of being inside of this corporate entity where there's trust and communications and easy access to resources, that was why these corporations existed. But we're heading towards a world of, as you said, AI agents. And if I want and I spin up 1,000 agents, they become the employees of my corporation. It's been talked about creating a unicorn, a one-person unicorn, right, or 2 or 3 person unicorn. And I think we're going to see these. So again, the world is accelerating. We opened that conversation. So really being connected. I think one of the most other things I said, I'm focused on mindsets. Our default mindset of the human being is fear and scarcity. That's our default from 100,000, 200,000 years ago in a world where everything could kill you and food was never just as easy as opening a refrigerator. You didn't know where it was going to come from. So a lot of our default wiring is fear and scarcity, which is the wrong place to be, stepping into the future from. And so it really is about reprogramming ourselves to be in curiosity, in an abundance mindset, in an exponential and a moonshot mindset, to be excited about the future, anticipatory about the future.
Hey everyone, listen, if you want to unfuck your future, let me help you. Follow this channel, subscribe, click the notifications, and you'll get everything as soon as it comes out. See you there. And a lot of people fear what is the role of humans, because we've talked about how the machines and AI. And I think of it simply as, if humans can just be humans, we're social creatures. Just be that. And we will find a way of how that works and how we can generate value for each other, whether it's economic value or societal value or social value, whatever it is.
A couple of thoughts there. Number one, the idea of a job is a relatively recent invention. For millennia, we didn't have jobs. We survived. I had the pleasure of being on stage with Sadhguru a number of years ago. And I remember he said something that I'll never forget. He said, technology is the means by which we take a vacation from survival, which is like, that's beautiful. And it's so true. So we're taking a vacation. There's going to be technological socialism. What I mean by that is where technology, not the state, is taking care of your needs. It's keeping you healthy, keeping you fed, keeping you educated, keeping you entertained. Now, where do I think that's going? What are my concerns? There are a number. Number one, we humans need to up-level our purpose, right? I opened my next book, that chapter 1 is called Our Ancestors Would View Us as Gods, right? And it's true. We are as gods, given what we can do today. We don't think about it. But if you went back 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago and said, watch this, it would be like, whoa, we're godlike in that regard. So we're going to be, 10x, 100x. So how do we up level what our goals, ambitions are? We need challenge and we need purpose. We are, a video game that is too easy that you win with a bat of an eye. You don't play it anymore. So how do we keep ourselves challenged in this world where there is technological socialism? We need purpose. I spend a lot of time, I speak about having a massive transformative purpose, right? It's everyone who comes into my Abundance 360 community we work with them to create their massive transformative purpose. And then that's the canvas. And then on that MTP canvas, what is the moonshot you're working on? Where are you going 10x bigger than the rest of the world, right? What is it that wakes you up in the morning, keeps you going at night? And we're going to be able to take those bigger moonshots, right? We think of Elon as an example of a moonshot entrepreneur. Well, what happens if you could do that, right? What would you do? What would you want to create? So I think these are empowering and important conversations that we need to have. And there's one other element, and I'm cautious bringing it in, but we're going to merge with technology. There is, when I'm on stages as you are, and I ask an audience, might have, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people, anybody here who doesn't have their cell phone, right? And there's no one. The last one, I think, was like 5 years ago, and they had left it in their Uber. I said, you don't have one? No, I left it in the Uber and have it with me. I said, great. So we're already outsourcing so much, but we're on the verge of connecting our neocortex of our brain to the cloud, because A, we will be able to, but B, once you have that ability to know anything you want instantly, just think and Google, or omniscience, being able to see through the eyes of humanoid robots someplace. It's also, I think, a future of a powerful connection where 8 billion humans are connected, a level of empathy and connection never before imagined.
I do think within this, I agree with you. I kind of think that the world is going to split into two types of people.
We're going to speciate, yes.
We're going to speciate. We really are. At first, It's going to be the decelerationist and the accelerationist, which we're already seeing.
Yeah.
And these guys are going to enhance themselves, and we're going to create separate species.
We are. We've seen this with the Luddite movement. We've seen this in different parts of human history. And that's fine. people should have the choice and the option. But I think, how do I put this properly? You ain't seen nothing yet. In terms of, our job is to make sure that these technologies are abundance loving, life loving, are uplifting humanity, and enabling people to be able to do what they desire to do in a respectful fashion. But I mean, the thing I have to just remind people of, this is not your kid's future. This is your future, right? This is not your kids or grandkids' challenge. This is not something happening in 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. It's the next decade. A lot of the stuff is going to be decided. I had Elon on my stage at Abundance 360 this past last March of 24. And, we were talking about how fast AI is moving, and, to quote him, he said, listen, I've never seen anything move this fast. And I've seen a lot of things. He's seeing 100x acceleration in a year. We used to think about Moore's law as being a doubling in compute every 18 months, 24 months. But what we've seen is all of the compute and algorithms driving AI going from a doubling every year to 10x every year, now to 100x. And the biggest challenge, and this, is society and humans don't grok change at that speed.
So let's have a peek into your kind of portfolio of investment companies in AI, and then we'll go into how this leads us into longevity. But
sure.
I want to, I watched, a lot of your videos. I see that you've got interesting investments. We have common friends and people like Ahmed Mostak and all sorts of stuff. But I want to have a peek inside, because your portfolio allows us to look into the future, not the present. So what do you see that's interesting there?
So, I split my life into three elements. Companies I start myself, companies I invest in through my venture fund, and then public equities, right? So I started a company called Daily.ai that I use, which is an AI engine that searches the world's information and delivers me custom newsletters that I want. This is everything that's going on in longevity today that is scientifically valid, is a pro-abundance mindset, isn't dystopian, is raises above the threshold of an important breakthrough. So the engine searches the world's information and it delivers me something called longevityinsider.org, which is free for folks. I have another one called Future Loop, which looks at all of the world's information in computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, and so it just helps me keep on top of how fast things are changing. Right? I built a venture fund in the AI space called Exponential Ventures with a dear friend, David Blunden. We just invested there, and my other fund, Bold Capital, in something called Liquid AI. That's a spin out of MIT, which went from 30 million to a $600 million valuation, and now will be in the mid billions in 24 months. Insane. What is it doing? It is delivering AI capabilities that are arguably 100 to 1,000 times better than the generative pre-trained transformers, the GPT models. And you'll hear a lot more about it in the next couple of months. So it's just the acceleration of the acceleration, right? So I'm always looking for companies that have unique data or own the customer and are able to ride on top of this rapidly self-improving AI engines, right? Or it has to be at the very top of that AI engine, or it's synthetic data. So again, Exponential Ventures, we're looking for mostly we are funding companies coming out of the MIT Harvard ecosystem, young entrepreneurial groups. And then the public equities, I'm a huge fan of still Tesla.
Still feels like it's a misunderstood company.
Yeah, no, I think I'm an investor in XAI. Tesla, I think I would never bet against Elon and the ecosystem he's built in terms of massive compute, talent aggregation, and data from X and from Tesla. I love Google.
But why are they failing? They feel like Xerox PARC of old, right? Which they have all of the breakthroughs and none of the commerciality. What's going on there?
I get it. And they had everything you've seen from OpenAI, Google had earlier. They were just cautious on releasing it because there was always the ethos, and I respect the leadership, Sundar and the whole team there, huge respect for them. It was like, we need to make sure this is safe for humanity. And then, of course, OpenAI goes, boom, here it all is. And it's like, you need to then, it's an AI arms race that is truly going on. Anthropic is doing amazing.
Yeah. The new Claude is really, really good.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting, right? So 6 months ago, you can test these AI models on an IQ test, and Claude, 3 and 3.5, tested above 100 IQ, which means, it's already at or above human levels. But it's, superhuman in all of these are in some ways. Google is just such an extraordinary company. I just think we see them leapfrog, and they're just taking their time. They've got an amazing revenue engine. And they're, I just see them as a very deep company. They had some screw ups, yes, but I would never bet against them as well. So those are, where I'm seeing it. A lot of the fundamental AI, the large language models, the large compute, right? I think we're also going to see Intel come back with Intel come back with a vengeance against NVIDIA in terms of chip manufacturing, because they need to, and they're, this it's just going to be a game of leapfrog.
Are these things just utilities in the end because of this massive competition?
Yes, they are utilities in the end, for sure. And the question becomes, this is oxygen. This is electricity. These are fundamentals, and a lot of questions. And Emad Mustak, who's been a friend,
I've known Emad for 25 years.
Yeah, oh, fantastic! You knew him before I did. I knew him. He competed in one of our X Prizes. Of course, you know him from the investment banking.
That's right. Yeah, and we're both from London. Yeah.
Yeah, he's extremely brilliant, right? And I've said, okay, listen, you're a great founder and chairman. Don't be the CEO of the company. Let somebody else run it.
Yeah.
But Emad talks about this. This has got to be a fundamental utility in every nation, and I see it like he does, for sure.
Longevity is another thing that obviously you're interested. Actually, one just before we move on to that, the other part of the equation, we've talked about compute. That there's a lot of people, NVIDIA and everybody trying to solve this. AMD, ASML, Intel, electricity. Elon's been talking about this. Is like, how do we generate enough electricity to keep this exponential growth?
Big problem. So I just come back from India and I was talking about electricity. And if you look at it, the US is generating 4 terawatts of power, 4 terawatt hours of power. And I graph this over time, and the US current power production is flat and not projected to increase. China just blows through 4 terawatt hours and continues growing, and it's doubled and tripled the amount of energy it's generating. India is on a trajectory to double it. If you look at 2030 and the projected power needs for AI, it's ridiculous, but it's 100% of the U.S. energy output is projected to be needed by AI. So, of course, you can't do that. So what do? We're going to, and this is why you hear about Sam Altman investing in Helion for fusion, and where, he gets a commercial contract from Microsoft. But I think the only source of energy that's going to allow us to scale that quick is fourth generation nuclear. It is, most of the plants out there that have given us a bad rap are second generation. You can now build nuclear power plants that are safe enough that I'd welcome it in my backyard, right? They can't fail, or that when they fail in a safe fashion. I shouldn't say can't fail. That brings up a whole bunch of people saying, yeah, sure, I've heard that before. But they fail in a safe fashion that saves the whole system. So we're going to end up building these massive GPU clusters that are going to have an energy source built adjacent to them. Are they natural gas?
This is a distributed grid as well. It's very different to, San Francisco generating the power for all the companies in San Francisco. You have to have your own nuclear plant or solar plant or whatever it is.
Or we're going to move the GPUs to where the power is.
Right, yeah.
Right. And so, just like, we moved crypto mining, Bitcoin mining centers to, lots of geothermal energy here. Let's put it here. All right, because the data can flow at the speed of light to any place on the planet. So I think we're going to see that, but there is a massive energy issue facing us. And of course, the more and more companies, the more and more people, the more and more industry dependent on AI, the more energy we're going to be consuming there. The biggest challenge becomes then all of these companies and countries that, with all good intention, signed up for climate caps, are now trying to say, well, okay, do we allow China to outdo us, to make China the enemy in this scenario, because they're massively growing their energy.
But most of their growth is coming from renewables. I mean, it is exponential what they're doing.
They are, but they're also bringing on every form of energy,
and nuclear as well.
Yeah, and so, do we? What do we do? Do we fall behind on AI because we're trying to keep the planet safe, or do we go and build the AI first and then use that to help us solve the climate crisis? By the way, the number one tool for solving the climate crisis will be AI, giving us new materials that are able to pull carbon out of the atmosphere, new catalysts, new mechanisms of energy production. Right. I'll just mention as an aside, I'm I'm chairman of the X Prize Foundation, and I got Elon to. I reached out to him back in 21 and said we need a massive X Prize for carbon sequestration, and he said yes instantly. And he funded $100 million X Prize for gigaton carbon removal from the atmosphere, from the oceans, and we've had like 6,000 teams enter that. We're down to 300 finalists building hardware, and we'll have a winner of that in the next 18 months. So, we're never going to solve the problems that we have today using the technology from, a decade ago, right? It's always going to be the next generation of tech that's going to help us solve the next biggest problems.
Yeah, and I also think that we understand what the issue is, which is electricity. And therefore, there's a lot of capital that coalesce to solve it as fast as possible, because the stakes are so high for not only corporations who can make so much money, economies, nation states, and the world. It's like, it'll get solved.
Yeah, I teach this again in my Abundance and Singularity University. Abundance 360 is the highest level of Singularity University. What I teach is, listen, the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities, right? Want to become a billionaire, help a billion people. It's that, and this 10 to the ninth plus thinking, right? Positively impacting the lives of a billion. is what we can do today. An entrepreneur scaling with exponential technologies can build something that can positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. And that's an amazing idea.
Totally. Now let's move on to longevity, because it's another important part. This is the human element. Part of it's merging with the machines. Also, it's using AI to find ways of improving our longevity and our health span as well. What are you seeing? You've always been at the forefront of this, and it's super interesting. As people know, on Real Vision, we've interviewed the Fountain Life guys. I'm actually even going there, which is something that you set up. So it's very interesting to a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll be there next week. So every year, so let's talk about first off, and then I'll get into the more advanced side of longevity. If I were to ask anyone in an audience, and I say, how many of you know without any question, there's nothing going on inside your body you need to know about? I think very few people would raise their hand. And I don't at this moment. Next week, when I go through my Fountain Life upload, I do this once a year. We have 4 centers today. We're about to announce the next 6 centers. We're in conversation with 30 around the world. These are super high-end diagnostics and therapeutic centers. And so when I go there, I do a full body imaging, full body MRI, brain vasculature, a coronary CT looking for soft plaque using an AI overlay, low dose lung CT, a DEXA scan, full genomics, metabolomics, microbiome, 120 blood biomarkers. Everything knowable about me becomes knowable. And in that moment, and it's about a 5, maximum 6 hour period of time. It's very efficient. All of the tech is right there. I'm there to answer 2 questions. Number 1, is there anything going on inside my body I need to know about? And hopefully there isn't, but I'll know. All right. People say, I don't want to know. I said, bullshit. You want to know. You're going to find out eventually.
Yeah, it's scary, but you might as well know early.
Do you want to know now and you do something about it, or it's too late? The second question we're there to answer is, what's likely to happen to you and how do we optimize your body, maximize vitality? Because we can do that now. The company is based on what's called functional medicine, which is root cause medicine. It's the most advanced version of medicine. We have an amazing chief medical officer, Helen Messier. And what we find is that 2% of people coming through who think they're fine have a cancer they don't know about. 2.5% have an aneurysm they don't know about. 14.4% either have metabolic, neurodegenerative, cardiovascular, or one of the other. And it's just, we're all optimists about our health. And I mean, we all know someone who went to the hospital with a pain in their side and they said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you've got stage 3 or 4, this or that. And it didn't happen that morning. All right. And I have, numerous people I know who died in their sleep, or their spouse died in their sleep. And again, all of this is preventable. And so I think it is a moral and ethical obligation for people to get access to these kinds of technologies. It's expensive still. The price is going to come down. A full Fountain upload, which by the way comes with a concierge medical team, a functional medicine MD, a nurse, a dietitian, a coach. It's $20K a year.
Yeah, I've got mine booked, so I just need to go. But yes,
and we're going to be bringing on a lower tier membership in the next 6 months. But I tell people, please, you owe it to yourself. You're going to spend the money eventually if when you end up in the hospital with something. And might as well spend it when you can prevent it from happening versus spending a massive amount down the line. So that's Fountain Life, and very proud of the team. I can't wait for you to go. I'm going to my upload next week.
Which clinic are you going to?
I'm going to the Orlando Center because that's the headquarters right now.
Yeah, that's the one I'm going to as well.
Yeah, so we have in New York, we have Orlando, we have Naples, Florida. The newest one is in Dallas. We're going to be bringing on 6 new centers: LA, Arizona, Boston, Houston, Miami, a couple in Europe, and we're talking to multiple locations. Long story short, if you don't go to Fountain Life, find somewhere else you can go. Understand what's going on inside your body. You owe it to yourself. Anyway, so that's I call that not dying from something stupid. Right? Because it really it's like you feel like an idiot, like, holy shit, I could have, found out about that years ago. The second, by the way, that's half of Fountain Life. The other half, which I'm excited about, is the therapeutics. We are searching the world, and I'm driving this as much as I can for the most advanced therapeutic treatments out there, and then bringing them to the centers where we make them available to the members, right? And so let's talk about the second part of longevity. It's moving at an exponential rate as well. It's doing that on the back of AI, on the back of technologies like CRISPR, gene therapy, single cell sequencing. All of these things are enabling us to really understand what is going on in the billion chemical reactions per second happening in all of your 40 trillion human cells, right? We're a collection of 40 trillion cells. And, the idea that some doctor is going to listen to the stethoscope and know what's going on, like, it's a ridiculous notion. So I'm tracking about 500 companies in the biotech longevity space. I'm doing this through different ways. I have my venture fund, Bold and Bold Longevity Growth, that are investing in biotech and longevity businesses. So that gives me a point of view. The companies I advise, when I'm doing my books, I've written 2 books in this space, one with Tony Robbins and one Longevity or Practical Playbook. And folks can get a digital copy for free if you go to diamandis.com/longevity. It's a lot of my longevity resources, the stuff that I teach and so forth. And then every year, I do a deep dive. I narrow it down to the top 50 companies, and I take a group of CEOs and family offices and venture capitalists to go for 5 days to visit these 50 companies. And one year it's on the East Coast. This coming September, October, it's on the West Coast. We're meeting with the top 3 epigenetic CEOs. These are companies backed by Sam Altman, by Jeff Bezos, by Brian Armstrong, right? These, billionaires are waking up to the fact that you can't take it with you. I might as well try and maximize longevity, right? And so that's called my Longevity Platinum Trip. And so I walk away after this 5-day deep dive with this gestalt image of how fast things are moving. And it's lightning fast. I'll give you one example. DeepMind, again, this is Google's AI, Demis, another Londoner, another Brit, who's brilliant, super sweetheart guy, right? He created DeepMind, sold to Alphabet. Years ago, they did something called AlphaFold, which was a neural net model that was able to predict how in a sequence of amino acids would fold into a protein, which was always a supercomputing problem. It was very, very difficult. It was always thought of the supercomputing problem, and they solved it like within a single atomic radius, perfection. And then they solved it for all proteins. And now they have AlphaFold 3, which is able to predict how different molecules of life, a carbohydrate, a protein, a RNA molecule, how those would interact together. Where are they going next? Imagine being able to model your human cell, like Raoul's, based on your DNA, this is your cell, fully modeled. And this drug does or does not work for you, right? And then we're going to model not just your cell, but you. And that level of modeling in medicine is going to be revolutionary, because now we do clinical trials in silico, right? And we find out, why does this person live to 120 and this person's dead at 60? And then how do we, slow, stop, and reverse aging? And so this is the conversation going on right now. Aging has always been viewed as inevitable. And in fact, there's lots of business models like the Catholic Church, based upon the fact you're going to die. Let me ask a couple of questions here just to poke people's thinking. I think we all know people who get into their 90s and even to 100. But did you know that a Greenland shark can live for 400 or 500 years? Right? A bowhead whale routinely makes it to 200 years. So why can they? Why can't we? And I remember when I saw that when I was in medical school years ago, I said, it's either a hardware problem or a software problem. And we're going to be able to solve that. And I think this is the decade that we're making a dent in understanding this.
So is it health span or lifespan that you think that's the change factor here for now?
It is health span, because no one wants to be drooling and brain dead in a wheelchair, right? That's lifespan. Health span is how long do you have the vitality, the energy, the cognition, the aesthetics to love life, to wake up and say, this is fucking awesome. I'm so excited. The world is amazing. I can't wait for my next company, my next education, my next adventure, whatever it is, and have that mindset when you're 80 or 90, right? That's the goal. In fact, going back to X Prize, last year we launched what's called the Health Span X Prize, right? So it's $101 million prize. It's funded. I'm a significant donor. It's the largest donations I've ever made. It's funded by Chip Wilson, founder of Lululemon. It's funded out of Saudi Arabia by Hevolution Foundation, and by a number of my Abundance Platinum members are significant benefactors of this. We actually raised $141 million. There's a $101 million major purse. And to win this prize, a team has to, in people ages 65 to 85, that's the age bracket, you have to demonstrate that with 1 year of therapy, you can reverse muscle, immune, and cognition by a minimum of 10 years and a goal of 20 years. So imagine you had the muscular strength of you 20 years earlier, the cognitive clarity, the immune function of you 20 years earlier. And we have like 400 teams entered this competition so far after less than a year. I think we'll get to 1,000 teams, and it goes through 2030. So,
and do we see the results by 2030, or is that the selection process and everything else?
That's the competition is running through that, and we're going to have. This is moving faster and faster and faster, right? So it's the world's biggest business, right? When I'm on stage at a YPO event or a large family office event, and I ask, honestly, how much of your capital? You're 80 years old. You're 85. You're 90 years old. How much of your wealth would you give for an extra 30 vital years, right? I can rewind the clock to when you're 50, where you've got the energy, where you've got the drive, you've got, you feel great about yourself. What would you give for that? And if anybody's, honest with themselves, they'd give the vast majority, 80, 90% of their net worth, right? So how big a marketplace is that? It's, it's tens of trillions of dollars.
A question for you is, one of the things I've thought of for a long time is somehow we need AI to be able to access all of the medical data, all of the tests ever done on all of the people, with that ability to put at mass scale and then allow AI will solve things a lot faster because it can pattern recognize recognize, it can do all sorts of things, but it's still siloed, right? Whatever's in Johns Hopkins stays in Johns Hopkins, and you kind of don't share it on a globalized basis.
It is siloed. I think what's interesting is we all, 8 billion of us, have the same disease called aging. And what I'm excited about is I think any therapeutic that works for you or me will work for everybody else. And I do think in the final result, while it might be expensive in the first year or two, maximum the first 5 years, it will demonetize very rapidly, because we've seen this before. The stuff that's expensive in medicine is the stuff that's for a very small group. A gene therapy for a very unique genetic disease can run you $1 million. But a gene therapy for a mass market, the COVID RNA vaccines were gene therapies, and they, in vast production, they were a couple of bucks a dose.
Yeah, the efficiencies of scale, I guess.
Massive efficiency. And because we all have that same disease of aging, right? So the demand for it is in the billions, not in the, thousands. So I think the data is siloed. I think, and unfortunately, a lot of the data is really for sick individuals, not people who are vital already.
That's a very good point, actually. You're getting a weird data sample.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we're doing in Fountain right now is because we upload people year on year on year. And one thing importantly for you is it's not a one and done, right? This is a lifelong, long life membership. I go every year. I sort of hold my breath. You're going to catch something at the very inception, because it turns out we are constantly creating cancers in our body. And people don't know that, right? There's something called the Hayflick limit. A cell divides 50 times, and then 3 things can happen. One, it can have the decency to die. The other thing that happens is it sticks around as a senile cell, or what's sometimes called a grouchy old man cell. It's sitting there living, generating inflammatory factors. And senolytic medicines are trying to kill those cells, which cause everything from wrinkles or inflammation, a whole bunch of things. Or they become cancers. And your immune system, your innate immune system, your natural killer cells are constantly searching your body for cancer cells. And they zap them when they find them because they're always arising. It's when your immune system gets exhausted. It's called immunoexhaustion. And the cancer cell can hide and begin growing that we develop a cancer. And so one of the reasons we talk about in the X Prize health span, immune function reversal is to re-energize your immune system. And there's lots of approaches. So at my platinum trip coming up this fall, we've got amazing companies that are part of the X Prize, or, I know them through my venture fund, that are looking at revitalizing your immune system to age 30 years earlier, right? And you want that to combat against infectious disease and cancer. I have a great deal of expectation, hope, belief, and I think validation that this field is moving forward. One other question for you. When you're born, you get 3.2 billion letters from your mom and your dad, right? That's your software. You have the same software when you're 20, when you're 50, when you're 80, when you're 100. Why do you look different? If it's the same genes, right? It hasn't changed over time. Well, it turns out it's not the genes you have. It's which genes are on and which genes are off. And that's called your epigenome, from the Greek word for above. And as you're growing older, your epigenome starts shifting, and the right genes get turned off, the wrong genes get turned on. There's reasons for this. Because we were never evolutionarily designed to live past age 30. Let me begin with that. It's downhill from age 30. because once you passed on your genes at age 13, 200,000 years ago, there was no benefit for you. In fact, it was a disincentive because you're eating the food from your grandkids' mouths, and so your epigenome drifts. So a lot of really smart physicians, and we'll meet many of them on this platinum trip, and entrepreneurs realized, if I could move back that control system to an earlier stage, can I bring you back to an earlier stage of vitality? And folks like David Sinclair and George Church and anyway, a number of others have been working on this. And the belief is, yes, in fact, we can. And we've seen it in animal models, in dogs, and now in primates. And we'll see it in humans before the end of this decade. So I'm tracking, for example, New Limit, backed by Brian Armstrong, is doing this with Blake Byers. A company called Altos Labs that's backed by Yuri Milner and Jeff Bezos. We'll meet the CEO of that company on this adventure trip, on this platinum trip. And then Retro, which is backed by Sam Altman. All of these are epigenetic reprogramming companies. And so a lot's going on. And so now the question becomes, all right, how are you thinking about your life differently if there's a increased likelihood that you can make it significantly and vitally over 100? Are you saving enough money? Are you excited about it? Right? There's a concept, and I'll say one more thing and then pause, because I've been on a rant here. There's a concept called longevity escape velocity, right? And so today, for every year that you're alive, science is extending your life for about a quarter to a third of a year. And that's just breakthroughs that are going on, better treatments, better science, better diagnostics. There is going to be a point that for every year you're alive, science is extending your life for more than a year. And that's called longevity escape velocity. And I interview every scientist and technologist that I meet in this field and ask them, when do you think we're going to hit that? Ray Kurzweil, who just wrote his latest book, Singularity is Nearer, is adamant it's 2030. We'll reach that, right? Not very far away. David Sinclair, George Church at Harvard, we've talked about it, and their belief is in mid-2030s, right? So again, even if it's 20 years from now, your job is to keep yourself healthy and vital to intercept that, right?
And then once you do that, the abundance mindset, the optimism and enthusiasm will carry you through it, and you'll enjoy it. And you'll enjoy the changes we've been talking about as well as this new technology across the board comes in.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think you're absolutely right. It's your mindset, right? So I talk about a curiosity mindset. I also talk about a longevity mindset. And the longevity mindset is, I believe and I'm seeing enough to know that we're going to be able to extend the human health span. Again, not lifespan, health span is what matters here. For all of these reasons, all of these things come together. And if I believe that, I want to keep myself in the best health to intercept that longevity escape velocity. And then with an abundance mindset, exponential mindset, a moonshot mindset, how big would you dream, right? Like, I want to go start a city on the moon. I want to go mine asteroids. I want to go, connect my brain.
Because our limiting factors are being taken away in a way that is incomprehensible, are happening so fast. The factors that limit our optimism, what we think we're capable of. Now anybody can be a polymath because of AI. You can be an expert on anything. It says, it's got an IQ of 100, but it's got an IQ of 100 based on every single topic of all of humanity. That's a polymath. Right.
I mean, Elon's projection, you can talk to a number of experts. They range, but, AGI, whatever that means, it's a very foggy, fuzzy term, artificial general intelligence. 2025, 2026. But then imagine AI that's as intelligent as the entire human race, AI that's 1 billion times more intelligent than the human species, right? There's no ceiling. There's no artificial ceiling as AI crashes through human intelligence. It keeps going.
Final question for you, because I know I've got to go. So if it's a longevity diet, it's a short answer. Is it plant-based? Is it a low-carb diet? What is the thing? Well, what do you do? What is your general...
So the book I just wrote, Longevity, Your Practical Playbook, and again, you can get a digital version of that on that, Diamandis.com/longevity. And it's not for me making money. It's like getting people out. Because what happened, I'd get people asking me this, and I wrote a 5-page Word document and said, this is what I do. Then I grew it to 10 pages, 20 pages. It grew to 120 pages. And when Tony and I wrote Life Force, which was a 700-page book, it was New York Times #1 bestseller for 2 months. It's hard to read a 700-page book. So I said, this is the digest. This is what I do in diet, sleep, exercise, meds and supplements, mindset, and not dying from something stupid. In other words, the fountain upload. And so it is in diet, it is the number one thing is sugar restriction. Hate to say it. Sugar is an inflammatory agent, cardiac, neurocognitive inflammatory agent. Our bodies were never designed to take in as much sugar as we have. So minimizing your sugar and high glycemic index foods. The second one is plant-based, maximizing the amount of multicolored plants you take in.
So that doesn't mean necessarily vegetarian or vegan. It means the majority of what you eat should be plant-based.
And there's no right diet for everybody. It depends on what your genetics are. I eat a Mediterranean diet. I attack vegetables. My favorite thing on the planet, surprisingly, like literally is steamed broccoli with olive oil and lemon. I mean, it's like I'm salivating. I've gotten myself to salivate just thinking about that. And so if there's lots of colored veggies on the plate, I'll eat those. I'll maximize the number of colors in the rainbow I eat, not Skittles. Like these are vegetables. I'll just mention one thing I learned. If you've got a plate of food, eat your vegetables first. It slows down the digestion. Eat your protein next, and then last eat any carbs. Right. The problem is when you go to a restaurant and your basket of bread and wine at the beginning, they're doing that because it spikes your blood glucose and your insulin, and then you're just hungry and you order more and you get a dessert. Be kind to your body in that regards. I'll just mention we need 8 hours of sleep. Maximizing sleep is important. And the number one thing I do is exercise. I try and get in, as much as I can. Even if it's just a 30-minute gym or just get my muscles going. Last year, I added 10 pounds of muscle mass, which was not easy. And now my job is to maintain that. But it is my greatest reserve for maximizing health.
Peter, thank you. Amazing conversation. Really enjoyed it. Please remind people again. So it was the Diamandis.com /
Yeah, so if you go to Diamandis.com, I put out a blog twice a week, one on longevity, one on AI. If Diamandis.com/longevity, you can get access to the book. I have a Moonshots is my podcast. I'm at Peter Diamandis on all social media. And if you're interested in my abundance CEO summits, it's abundance360.com, abundance360.com. And I just think it's the most exciting time ever to be alive. And my job is help people see that, grow their vision, and not be fearful of the future, but be excited about the future. Because it's coming fast.
Totally agree. I love it. Brilliant, Peter. Good to see you again. And I'm sure we'll see you soon at some point.
I look forward to that, my friend.
So another mind-blowing, brilliant conversation with Peter. He explains things so well. And hopefully it's got across to you how important this all is. We can extend our lives, our lifespans, and our health spans. I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that, particularly if we don't have to work as hard? Because the game changes. I have my own views on how we work. I think we find our purpose and our work from the universal basic equity idea of working within communities and having stakes in them, much like we do in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana, or we do in meme coins, or we will have in football clubs or Taylor Swift or whatever it may be. It's all coming. Kind of a revolution in what we do as humans is actually to be more human. And the robots and the AI take care of the rest. So I think that if you don't understand this, you are going to be angry and you're going to be confused. Knowledge is power. And I'm trying to give you as much knowledge as possible for this. This revolution is definitely, the AI revolution for sure, is definitely the biggest technological leap forward in all of humanity's history. Because we've made knowledge infinite and as cheap as water. We don't even know what that means. None of us can even get our heads around it. So anyway, again, if you are interested in this, you're not a Real Vision member, go to realvision.com, sign up for free, and start immersing yourself in some of this stuff. You can use our AI on the platform too and ask it questions. It's really bloody cool. And there's some more surprises to come on that too. But if you are immersed in this space, maybe you work for a technology company, maybe you run your own business, or maybe you're just an investor, then I would try a trial of the Exponentialist. And that's realvision.com/future, or just go, if you're a Real Vision member, go to the marketplace and try it out. It's very different. It's not a trading research service. It's very different. It's there to make you think. It's in-depth. It's lots of articles, video discussions, trade ideas, some options around them as well, some special guests. We're trying to give you everything, cram all of our minds, because we're all going on this journey too. Nobody has the answers. All we can do is ask the questions and try and learn as we go. Anyway, I'll see you there, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Make large crypto trades with Kraken OTC. Execute orders of more than 100,000 off the open exchange through our premium OTC trading service. Get 24/7 access to deep liquidity, minimal slippage, and competitive execution and settlement services. Private and secure trading options include chatting securely with our trade desk for a personalized high-touch service, or use our self-service RFQ for super fast, automated OTC trading. Non-investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss and is offered to U.S. customers through Payward Interactive Inc. For more information, go to realvision.com/Kraken OTC.
We hope you enjoyed the video. At Real Vision, we help you understand the complex world of finance, business, and the global economy with in-depth analysis from real experts. Join the revolution at realvision.com.